songs are slow and sad. I don't know what's wrong with me.
Welcome to the Sad Song Queens podcast, where we dive deep into the songs that make us cry. I'm Laura Webb.
And I'm Lindsay Wolfington. Today, we will be chatting with Ben Bridwell from Band of Horses and discussing the song The Funeral. This song holds a special place in our hearts as a personal favorite. Many friends have asked us to have Ben on the show, since this is truly a generational favorite sad song for many of us in our 30s and 40s.
Band of Horses are a Seattle rock band formed in 2004 who gained attention while opening for Iron and Wine. Their breakout single, The Funeral, was on their first album, Everything All the Time, which was released in 2006 and was nominated for a Grammy for Best Alternative Album. The band's music has been streamed over 2.6 billion times, with streams of The Funeral exceeding 500 million. The Funeral has been heard in many of your favorite films and TV shows, including good old One Tree Hill.
Over nearly 2 decades, Band of Horses has shaped the sound of modern indie rock. Ben Bridwell has led that charge with his distinctive, emotive vocals and deeply personal lyrics. We are excited to welcome Ben to the show today. First, here is The Funeral by Band of Horses.
So grab those tissues and let's get into it, because we all need a good cry.
Coming up only to hold you under, and coming up only to show you wrong, and to know you is hard. We wonder
Well, Ben, welcome to the podcast. We're so
Thank
happy to
you.
have you.
Thanks for having me, really.
No, we're so honored. So it's a song that's meant a lot to us for a long time. So nice to have this conversation.
Appreciate your business.
Come again.
Yeah.
So one thing we usually do at the beginning is kind of tell you what our interpretation of the song was, before we talk about what the real meaning of the song behind the song is. For me, I listened to it and I was like, I don't think I ever thought about what the song was about. Like I was just along for the dynamic ride. Like you say it's a long song, but it has so many dynamics. You don't feel that, right? And I think as music supervisors, we're also grateful for long dynamic songs when we have a montage to end the episode or something, right? Where we need a lot of changes. I was also thinking about like, why is this a sad song? And I think for me, the sadness is in those arpeggiated guitar notes that where the song begins. And I was like, is that the verse? Like, which one's the verse and which one's the chorus? I think we know. Back to the meaning slightly, I was trying to create meaning out of it. And I guess what I got out of it was, with lines like coming up to show you're wrong, made me feel like you've been understood and are upset about it. The hold you under lyric makes me also feel like you're frustrated with a person and don't really care what happens to them and maybe don't care if they die. So sorry, went morbid. Yeah, I just overall, like the overall feeling I get from it is that sometimes pain feels good. So Laura, what about you?
Yeah, so I took it as a death of a relationship. Like the line "to know you is hard," and "to know you all wrong." Maybe that meant like you were wrong as a couple. Your role about the hardly golden, so maybe you admit wrongdoing, and the funeral being the end of the relationship. And that when you see each other, it reminds you of the reason why the relationship ended. Kind of you're questioning who was right and who was wrong. That's my thought.
Well, I'm happy to say you're both absolutely wrong.
We usually are. So
No,
that's
no.
what's cool about it.
No, I think
Two whammies.
no. You're both right, and here's the thing. For me, I didn't know what I was doing. It was like the first songs I'd ever written, and I was like a terrible drummer in this like slowcore band, mostly because I had a good driver's license, so I could drive us to the shows and stuff. But
amazing.
But I kind of fell into being a singer or a songwriter, and this is in my mid-20s, and I didn't have that path really ever in my toolkit that I carried around for all the years leading up to it. And I was and am at times like deeply self-conscious about it and insecure about it, so there's a lot of not very clever word play going on to hide from my lack of talent as a writer to form a cohesive story. It bounces around numerous things, and a lot of what you guys are feeling in there, those themes are popping in. But I think for me, because I was just starting out and I felt like this is probably going to be my only chance to put out an album that anyone would ever hear, I was thinking of a letter basically because I knew I'd have to lose my parents at some point, and I was going to have to, or family members. And I'm a very like weepy kind of person, and things like unrequited love and things like that, or things left hanging without some sort of finality or resolve, it gives me a lot of anxiety, but also a lot of inspiration, I guess.
So you wrote the song out of that anxiety of maybe losing somebody without closing loose ends?
Yeah. It's almost like like a prayer for the future, knowing that I'm going to have to deal with some tough loss, and knowing that it's a bit universal, as a theme, but not really, I'm not exactly sticking a flag in it. I am bouncing around with a lot of subjects at the time because, well, I didn't possess the skill yet of how to put together sometimes a cohesive story. So maybe it's deliberately obscured at times because I don't have the confidence to display my feelings so vividly to people. I could be wrong too.
Yeah,
though.
no. I know. I'm trying to think. None of it feels wrong though. I mean, it all.
Well, that's like the thing about it is it's like all vibes. And I actually think that's why, like, I don't think I ever knew what you said in the chorus, and I didn't care. Like, not from a I
Right.
don't care, like, mean perspective, but like, it just feels good. I'm along
It
for the
is a bit
ride.
literal, though. It is a bit literal where it's saying like, okay, any second of the day, I'm gonna be ready
Mm.
for some tragedy, basically. And I think that that anxiety, that overarching anxiety, kind of permeates most of that first record.
So where you were pre-mourning, you were like front loading
Yes,
mourning. Okay, got it. Yeah,
I was. I think so, in a way. Yeah,
right. And it does happen. It happens to all of us. So right.
I'm arming up
Yeah.
because I know it's gonna be a
Oh
tough
yeah.
road ahead. Yeah.
I was curious, the structure of the song is so unique. Like, what did this sound like in demo form? Was it just your vocals and a guitar?
Very similar, actually. It sounded very similar. And I also didn't know how to play guitar. So that first record, especially, I took, because I didn't know where to put my fingers and stuff. So I detuned all the pegs, the tuning pegs. So each string, I'm just trying to get my fingers in a comfortable place. And then I'm detuning the strings to fit where my hand is comfortable. So that's why it's this weird kind of stanza going on with that arpeggiated intro and things. And I let this delay pedal kind of do the work for the rhythm because it kind of trips up on itself. It kind of almost hits itself perfectly. But I needed that rhythm because I didn't know how to write a song at all. So that delay pattern kind of got me something to sing to time with. And I got lucky that it does have dynamics in that some beginner's luck there because a lot of my songs since don't have those same beginner's luck.
Well, I guess that's why
Yeah.
I'm like, at a demo form, how do you decide? Like, did you put drums down as well right away? Like, how did you decide when to go big, or did your bandmates come in and help you be like, oh yeah, let's crescendo here?
You know, I would work every day trying to find anything that was worth showing to some other guys that I was playing with. And most days I wouldn't get anything. But then when I finally would get something, I'd have the dudes come in and I'd record it just so I could listen to it over and over to try to understand what the feeling was, to try to attempt to sing to it. So it was very like nuts and bolts back then. I couldn't record myself unless it was like a handheld dictaphone
Right.
or whatever kind of thing. And I really had to have the band in there with me from the beginning to understand what kind of power it would have and then how to approach that singing.
That's so cool.
Yeah, because like I mean, obviously that was intentional. The very like the rocking out at the very end, like at the 4-minute mark.
Yeah.
Like, was that in the demo? Did you kind of think like we're always gonna jam out here or rock out?
God, that's a good question. I don't think I'm smart enough to have, especially back then, to have been like, here's the intro, here's the outro, here's like, you know what I'm
Right.
saying? I still don't even know what those things are sometimes.
Right.
So I'm going to pass the credit on to Phil Eck, who produced said
Okay,
album.
all right, yeah, fair enough.
He's got a lot of songs to discuss. Phil Eck's whole catalog of with Built to Spill, Fleet Foxes, Modest Mouse, amongst so many others. He is a licensing department's dream.
We bow down to Phil Aki.
Yes,
sure.
yes.
Respect.
Yeah, and I think once we do want to talk about that time, that 2006, that time in indie rock history. But a couple more questions on the song.
Sure.
So what does the 1 billion day funeral mean?
God, I guess it just meant like never ending.
Right.
Just never. It's never gonna. Once it gets going, it doesn't stop until the end. Dealing with loss.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I reckon I was just trying to grasp it,
Mm-hmm.
and not very eloquently or wise, but some of that stuff. It's like it's not very clever, but because the amateurism of it is kind of its strength.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I have a lot of respect. I think, Lauren knows this about me, is that I think in another life, I would have been a songwriter. I think the part that steered me away from it was it's hard to like start, and you have to be so vulnerable with lyrics and like melodies. Like, I'm sure there's so much like, does that sound good? Like, I don't want to share, like, this could be embarrassing to share with somebody. So I think it's so cool that you did that. And it's obviously proved super successful for you.
It's still as scary as it was back
Aw.
then.
Really?
I think you're doing okay.
No, it's not as scary because we do have, it's not like people need. The world doesn't need another Band of Horses record, but there's also some liberation in that, some freedom there, because it's like you're not trying to exactly stay relevant. You can really dig in on yourself for better or worse. At this point, we still got catalog we can tour on.
Yep.
But I got 4 kids, so I also I like to challenge myself still, but it's still a mystery to me at the same time.
I mean, the fact that you can still be a touring musician and making music, that you're in the top 1%. I don't know the actual statistics, but like there's not many people that can be like 20 years in and still like be relevant. And, I mean, so you pat yourself
The
on the
night's
back.
young.
Yeah. No, stop. No. We're here to just like, praise
Give
you.
love.
Yeah. We're all about positivity. Even though it's sad song queens, we're like, no, listen.
For
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
I've been thinking so much about sad songs since this was, you guys brought this to me, and meditating on that kind of stuff. And it's interesting how some of the saddest songs are so up tempo and so joyful, and just all the weird dichotomies that exist, like in this umbrella that you guys have here. So you might spend the rest of your days trying to figure these things out.
Well, I would love to hear more about where your head went immediately and what your thoughts were. For us, just like to feature a song on here, like we just have to feel it. Some songs are like obviously sad. Some songs are like, why are you talking about this? Is it really sad? And then, other times we find that it's either a time and place that's made us attached to a song, or even like hopeful is often more sad. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah.
Well, I guess for some reason, like the first song that came to me, at least, I was thinking about, was it Ask the Lonely? Or no, it was not, which is another great one, by the way. But I was thinking of, it's the Same Old Song by the Four Tops, which is just like so tempo.
So
like,
snappy and catchy.
Yeah. And then it's just like so heartbreaking, the words. And I mean, even the delivery is just so bright and sunny, but you just look under the hood a little bit or whatever, and you're like, there's a lot of pain being expressed here, So I kind of started there, and then I couldn't help but think or remember that the first concert I ever went to was the Four Tops, the Temptations,
awesome,
the OJs, and Levert, a great 4-band bill, especially in Columbia, South Carolina. And growing up with parents that were very into music, I was just blessed to be around a lot of those feelings. And it's hard to not have an affinity for sad songs when your parents love Otis Redding.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Just built in the DNA. I mean, his voice alone, like.
Yeah, they're Georgia people. So it's all Ray Charles and James Brown and Otis all day. I mean, we were so lucky to have that, while we're going to sleep at night.
Oh, that's amazing. So your parents are from Georgia?
Yeah, all from the Atlanta area.
Well, interestingly, I was born in Greenville, South Carolina, and then when I was 3, on my 3rd birthday, so I don't really remember much of South Carolina, but then we moved to Atlanta, so.
Wow.
Yeah.
You don't live there now?
No. And I was like, I saw that and I was going to ask you. But.
Yeah, my partner, like when we won the World Series, when Atlanta did, we were just tattooing stuff all over ourselves or whatever. But just so excited because the Dogs finally won a championship, and then the Braves won. Oh my God. But then she did one on me that it's supposed to be my dog with a Braves bandana on, but it looks something, this one. But it looks like there's a penis pointing right at my face.
Oh dear.
Does it not?
The sad song queens.
I wouldn't have thought that. Like, I really wouldn't have thought that. But now that you say that, I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah. I saw the bandana and I saw ears. But then when you say that, I can't
keep your shirt on and then you won't.
Oh, no one's begging me to take it off.
Public,
don't worry.
Offender.
I know. I'm going to cancel just for that. And that's fine. It's too funny.
My dad went to Georgia Tech, so we were a Georgia Tech household. But
sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
No,
he was really smart, so.
Yeah, totally. Y'all get all the brainiacs over there.
He was one of those. But that's cool. That's very cool. Yeah.
That's funny. I think I saw the Temptations really early on. They played the Melody Tent in Cape Cod. My parents, I like grew up on doo-wop and 60s and stuff. Like, is that what was all that old soul, what was playing in your house?
Yeah, and a lot of, I mean, growing up too. I mean, still even as R&B and stuff evolved with like listening to like a lot of like the Rippingtons and Peebo Bryson and James Ingram and a lot of Luther Vandross and Anita Baker and Sade, and so a lot of beautiful soul music, and but also a lot of good rock and roll stuff. Like my dad was really into the Stones and Neil Young and Little Feat and stuff like that. A lot of Southern rock stuff, but without like without any of the kind of like overly y'all or like Southern about it. You know what I'm saying? It's
Right.
just rock and roll and
Yeah,
soul.
we were not a country household. It was yeah.
No,
Yeah.
I did that on my own. I love country
Yeah,
music.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well, it's great songwriting.
Oh God.
Like as a
good
craft,
lord.
you're like, it's so classic.
You guys have your work cut out for you with all this stuff. I can tell because, I mean, there's just it's so complex, the subject you're working with.
Yeah, well, hopefully. And it's subjective too, right? Like, what do we all,
Yes.
but I think some things can be universally acknowledged. Like, this is a sad song. When we were telling people about this podcast, everyone's like, you have to have a Band of Horses on. Like, we have to talk about the funeral. We're like, oh, it's already on the list. Don't worry.
That's so sick. I really appreciate it. And it's thanks to y'all, people that license music and stuff like that. And thanks to a good song somehow. I mean, I was able to start a family. I mean, it has major shockwaves, And I just wanted, before I forget, you're kind of talking about the bones of that song and the arpeggiated thing.
Yeah.
I've always thought it felt like almost like a chime, like, when NBC shows their logo on the TV or something like that. It almost has this almost like an advertising kind of like catches your attention kind of register. And it might be, if someone is trying to study it for to put it into an algorithm, it might be how the vocal approaches it too, because it is very like lovelorn, or the register that it's at, and compared to where the guitar note is. There's something about it that swoops in and just grabs your attention.
It's true. It's like instant. I mean, I think it's instantly recognizable for.
Lucky me.
I
I'm glad.
know.
Thank God. Could use a couple more. Keep
Yeah.
them coming.
Yeah.
Well, and it was used in a Ford ad. I remember like that was, we knew the song, right? Because we were always listening to up and coming music and placing it in TV shows and whatnot. But I felt like that brought it into a broader consciousness. I can't remember if it was a Super Bowl ad, but I remember being like, oh, they made it. Like, are we going to be able to afford Band of Horses anymore? Like,
I know.
how was
I
that
know.
for you? And was there any I feel like mid 2000s licensing was popular, but there were still people who didn't want to do it for fear of selling out or whatever.
Yeah.
What are your opinions on that?
Ooh. Well, that was definitely like blog culture at that time. It was an interesting kind of time, and that we had people being afraid that burning CDs and stuff was going to affect
Right.
the music industry so much, and then the Napster stuff, and it's like, oh my God, we're all screwed. And radio never paid attention anyways, and it's like, we're screwed, and not knowing that we were really in such a lucky place at that time, where so many TV shows, I think especially, kind of got that conversation started with like, the Shins are on a McDonald's commercial now. Everyone's got to talk about it at the bar, okay? And everyone's got a damn opinion about it, but everybody's damn broke, and this guy gets to start a family.
Right.
So it's also like, I think, even though it was kind of like wearing like a scarlet letter for a couple of years there, when you did have success in licensing, especially, I think those TV shows and things like that really got, the culture was springing up thanks to things like that. I think that's when the advertisers started to take notice, and people like McDonald's or Ford come calling. You know what I'm saying? But even then, I knew that the whatever squeezing I'm gonna have to do on the blogosphere is so minuscule compared to the juice that is being financially independent enough to also be able to start a family, and just to not have to work some dish job.
Right. Yeah.
It's funny because I do feel like TV and film, like a license, you're kind of naturally part of a story. So I feel like it's a little bit different than when you're like, oh,
Oh, for sure. I'm sorry. I did not
No,
mean
no,
to
no. I'm just
put
discussing.
those so
No,
close.
no,
No,
not at all. Like I
we're not.
actually we hear it, which is why like we've gotten denials on TV and film uses, right? Which sometimes is like, what? Like, that whole like TV is
Yeah.
the new radio. You're like, it's just in the background and like maybe someone will discover your music and is that so bad? Like, and I kind of
Mhm.
feel the same way about ads. Like take the money and run. It's not like you're branded to Ford forever, right? Like
Mhm.
it's a moment
For
and
sure.
it's going to do something that's good for you and probably good for the band and the song. Like, why not?
And like during
Yeah.
COVID, we saw when everything shut down,
Yeah.
like that was a way for you all to make some income, right? Like,
Oh my
yeah.
God, yes. And we were looking under every cushion.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's cool. I always figured from that point on too, if it was an artistic use that someone was using and wasn't, some advert, that whether it was a school kids, doing a school film for his high school, or it was, for Submarine the movie or whatever, it's like, bro, it's someone else is making. I mean, you've already given the song to the people
Mhm.
anyways. If they want to use it in a new way, it's only furthering the joy. So I don't get in the way.
No, and like we are music lovers. That's how we got into this job as music supervisors. But so sometimes we're like, oh, we're so nervous to ask about it, right? Like some songs
Man,
that you just feel so. I know, but and obviously when we ask for approvals, we know you can say no, but we're always like, oh God, I hope you do. But we understand, and like if it's something deeply personal, that's okay. But usually we're really like
yeah.
behind here, coming from a really good place, and like no one wants to
Oh my
misuse or
God. Yeah.
anything.
Yeah. Who knows? I mean, I can see some people have like missing members in their bands and things like that that have passed on or something like that.
Right.
And that'd be a bit delicate. But
Right.
I mean, even with like, like the Norwegian bank would like to use your song. I'm like, man, let's check out their practices. You know what I'm saying? We also do a little digging when it
Mhm.
comes to like the other side of that stuff and
Mhm.
make sure that people aren't supporting some bullshit
Mhm.
or sometimes you do gotta weigh some devil and angel on the shoulder. But
Yeah.
um, there's no guesswork in TV and film.
Good to
Yeah.
hear. Good to
Yeah,
hear.
Talk to us a little bit about being a dad because you seem to be super proud of it.
it's bad, terrible,
Oh.
doing a terrible job. They hate me.
Well, then you're doing
They
a
think
good
I'm
job if
ugly.
they hate
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. You have 4
Yeah.
daughters, is that correct?
I have four
Wow.
daughters. Yeah, yeah,
That's
it's
awesome.
going swimmingly. I'm having a great time, and it's thanks to people like y'all that you really helped me like have like an anchor that I could start to imagine a financially independent future. So thank you because I'm enjoying being a father so very much, and I hope I'm good at it.
That's
Oh.
great.
Have you written any lullabies for them? I know they're not little anymore, but
In ways I do, but I sneak things in that y'all hear when I get nervous when I write songs for them
Mm.
because when I was having my first child, I wrote a song for her and I named it after her and all this stuff. And then there's like pressure. I'm like, well, now the rest of them are going to think that I did it just because I had to, just to keep up,
Mhm.
because everyone has to get the same amount of presents.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Everybody's got to get
That's
the
right.
same, you know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
I shy away from showing them, honestly, even the songs that aren't about them. And I just hope that they're getting clever enough to figure out when I'm talking about them. But um, I also keep things in the vault
Mhm.
that's really that are personal, and maybe one day I'll get to show them.
Well, it's the first time I heard "No one's gonna love you more than I do." I was like, "Ew, these either about like a great love or your kid." And now, like that, I've done a little research. I know you didn't have kids when you wrote it, but it has that. That's exactly how parents feel, right? No one's gonna love you more than I do.
Oh,
Hmm.
for sure. But it's also like a little bit like, whoa, bro, what's the incel behavior over here? Like,
I didn't
no one's
take it
gonna
like
do
that.
it.
I didn't take
No, me. So weird in a way if you look at it wrong, uh, but of course, everything is subjective here.
Right.
So I can tell you, I do remember when it came to saying that, I was really struggling with having the guts to say it out loud. Um, I'm just putting those words to paper because it just seemed so vulnerable and such a display of vulnerability that the only thing that helped me find the strength there was thinking about growing up with Otis Redding and like Al Green and stuff like that, where real men, they testify about how much in love they are, or how vulnerable they are. So it was a very powerful moment for me to realize that that's where the strength is letting the guard down there.
Do you feel like you do that with your daughters?
Oh my God, I'm so weepy.
Okay,
Like,
good. No, I
oh
love.
God.
We had I'm all female. Like my dad always had like only females around him, but he's like that. He was like that too. Yeah, totally.
Oh,
Yeah.
I mean, I was like that even before that, but your heart just expands so many different sizes with kids, and I mean, I think they do it. It's almost like a game. Especially like Father's Day or anytime I get a present, it's like we're gonna make him cry.
Oh,
They love it. They love it.
Oh,
It works every
that's
time.
amazing.
my kids make fun of me for crying. They're like, "Oh,
Oh
that commercial.
God.
Oh, is mom crying? Oh, she's crying again."
Oh my God. I think they're so used to it now that it's not even a novelty. So
Right.
you're holding it together maybe better than I am.
But I think it's so good for females to see, and I think for males too, but I think it's so good to see men cry. Like I think we see so many of the stoic, and I think that was so helpful. Like I had a very weepy dad too. And I just think like seeing that vulnerability, I think it's so healthy and great for your daughters and have good role models. Yeah. So how old's the youngest and how old's the oldest?
We're going 8, 9, 14, almost
Oh,
17.
teenagers.
Is your
Oh yeah.
almost 17-year-old driving?
Yes, doesn't really want to. Failed the test the first time.
So did
keep
I.
trying
You
to.
can let her know.
Yeah, me too, actually. Yeah, but a little bit intimidated by it. Maybe doesn't have the thirst or the passion for driving that some do, like I did. So her next youngest down sister is very much a driver and just obsessed with it. And we go out and drive because we live in the country. You can kind of drive around and not see people. And but we're in that realm right now for sure.
It's a thing with the, young kids, like that they aren't necessarily like for all of us, like turning 16 and getting your license was like a huge deal. And now it's like, maybe. I have a 19-year-old niece. I guess she's still only 18, but she still doesn't have her license. She's not like, she don't really care.
Well, we knew that the Jetsons weren't going to probably get to us anytime
Dang.
soon. They can actually see robot cars on the street, so they're probably like, I might just hold out and wait it out. a little
Right?
bit.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wouldn't blame
I
them.
know.
Yeah,
It's like,
call my Waymo. I love it.
I know.
Let's talk a little bit about the mid-aughts. So this song and album came out in 2006. We were marveling. So we were in our mid-20s, working in music supervision, but I felt like indie rock was like my favorite genre of music, and I feel like that was such a heyday, like 2004, 2006. It continued, but the Shins, Modest Mouse, Franz Ferdinand, Block Party, Killers, Silver Sun Pickups, Wolf Mother, Snow Patrol, Cold War Kids. Like, tell us about that time. I don't know how much interaction you had with other bands at that time, but in my memory, and maybe because I was like 26 years old, but it was like a golden age of rock music. So what do you remember about it? And yeah, talk to us.
Yeah. Well, everyone wants to also root for a team and stuff. And growing up like I did, I think I stenciled like a Sub Pop logo on my
Right.
backpack, or a K Records logo on my backpack. There was a lot of camaraderie with the bands on certain labels, at least at that time too. So like you see Wolf Parade at some festival that won't be around next year, by the way. There's a lot of people popping up with festivals everywhere around that time too. It was like festival hotcakes everywhere. So you did run into a lot of bands. And so it was kind of easy to find your tribe with being on Sub Pop because there were so many great bands that were very active. God, you just ran into everybody. I mean, it was hilarious. You become best friends with Beach House for a night. You know what I'm saying? You'd end up by a lake or something like that. Or Cat Power would walk by and doesn't need her bottle of Jack Daniels and hand it to you in France. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
Like it was, I guess now with a little bit of hindsight, I guess it really was magical because a lot of people were thriving, a lot of people with the same kind of vibe. But I'm sure it's the same way now. It's just, it's all cyclical too, There's a lot of great bands out there. There's plenty of potential for it to happen again as long as bands can make enough money to survive.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Did you ever feel like outside of it, or you felt like, oh, I'm part of this like community? And because I've heard that sometimes like one band, like the New York rock scene of like 2004, they were like all those different bands, like Yeahs and they're all like, oh, I wasn't part of it. Where did you feel like the sub pop world, you guys were all,
You know what's kind of basic of my situation is I really gravitated towards like, well, my friend Sam from Iron and Wine.
yes,
I mean, we grew up in the same town, dipshit town in South Carolina. I had like a kinship with him before either of us did music. So there was a lot of like, well, it was like having a big brother on your already there in your first day of high school,
that's great.
kind of, right?
That's cool.
And then a lot of the Southern bands that I grew up with, like Archers of Loaf, being like this, kind of like the South's answer to Pavement or Sebadoh and stuff like that. There's a lot of kinship with a lot of, and still is with those guys, or running into MGMT or something like that out there. But in general, most of the time felt like more of an outsider, even as a person, just walking around. So I can't say that I was over the top, like making friends. You know what I'm saying? I can't help but do that.
Right.
But I'm not, we weren't all, it wasn't like everyone was trying to make a summer camp either.
Right, right. Yeah, there's always that competitiveness
But it does feel a little bit like there was at least an understanding that you guys could come from the same world. And that's really cool about Sam from Iron and Wine.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. And I just saw Sam recently. He came to the house and we hung out. And I mean, we both marvel at just the unlikelihood of either of us falling into this, much less being from about as far away as you can get from Sub Pop Records.
right.
From Irmo, South Carolina to Seattle, how it worked out that we fell into it and get to have these careers, now 20 years on, and have successful families with all girls, by the way.
Oh.
Sam's got 5.
Oh my
He always has
gosh.
to one up me. 5 girls, I got 4. So something in the water in Irmo, South Carolina for one.
Apparently.
But yeah, it's just amazing, and I think a lot of it has to do with licensing and things that gave us again that financial independence.
That's so cool. So what made you, because did you know Sam in South Carolina, or did you meet more in Seattle when you guys were out there?
Yeah, he went to like the rival high school across town. They're the rednecks. No, y'all are the rednecks. That kind of thing. In Chapin High School, we're at Irmo, and my brother and Sam were friends, about 4 years older than me. So they were like the big brother types. And then, Sam kind of accidentally showed me his music one day, and I spazzed about it, and I put it in Sub Pop's ear. And then in turn, when I started Horses, he put my demo in Sub Pop's ear. We both got each other signed to Sub Pop Records.
That's
my gosh.
amazing.
True story.
Each other's A&R. I love
How
it.
old were
Very
you when you
much.
went out to Seattle?
I was still a teenager.
Okay.
I was probably 19.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool. Did you like being in that world and like the whole rock world then? And
Yeah,
Yeah.
because here it was like you'd have to drive to like Chapel Hill, North Carolina, or Atlanta or Athens to see indie rock shows.
That's true.
So to be in a city where that stuff was really, not only would touring bands come through, but there was a bunch of local bands that were making music that I listened to. I was overwhelmed with excitement, and I got to work in a rock club there as my first job and get to see how it all goes down.
That's so cool. I mean, I grew up watching, like, I think it came out when I was in like middle school, but Singles, like ever since Singles came out, I was
yeah.
like, I want to be there. Seattle looks so cool.
Still a fantastic
Oh, yeah.
soundtrack.
Yeah. No, there's some, I mean, amazing bands come out of the Pacific Northwest, but also
For
from
sure.
South Carolina.
There still are,
Yeah.
by the way. There's still great
Yeah.
young bands coming out of
Yeah.
everywhere.
Yeah.
But I love some of these new young bands from up there.
Yeah.
They carry that same spirit, like you're talking about. If there is a spirit that can be carried, I do think there's a lot of great guitar-based young bands that are really like blowing my skirt
Yeah.
off.
Like
I'm loving.
who are you into right now?
Up there's a band called Enum Claw that I'm really into.
Okay.
This 3-piece band. And Enum Claw is a town up there in Washington State. I love them. And there's this band called Tina Kit that I really love right now. And there's a lot of my kids even get me into some stuff. I mean, I'm like my dad did to me. I'm always playing music with them, especially on these long drives we have to the country. And I'm learning so much from them. And there's like that right now we're kind of obsessed with that record by the Marias, that newer record. We're listening to that a lot.
That's fun. Are your daughters Swifties?
Very much.
Okay, good.
Yeah, we all
Yeah.
kind of are. I mean, it's great, and we listen to everything, you know. We listen to a lot of pop music right now. I mean, I know them
Yep,
all.
me
I
too.
know them all, and it's very informative, and it's nice to have that connection. And in turn, I end up, you know, finding my favorites and knowing all the songs like the back of my hand.
So who are some of your pop favorites?
Oh, I like Olivia Rodrigo.
Yes.
That's true.
I really like the songcraft. I like her guitar playing a lot too. Um, I tend to shy away from a lot of this like constant talk about heartbreak, and especially with men. I think it's getting tiresome for me because it just feels like so. It feels a bit lazy now, like cussing does too. Cussing's gotten a bit lazy. Yes, it's fun, but when you're all doing it and trying to out raunch each other, I just it feels like hive mind mentality kind of shit. And I look kind of like the Maria's record. I really found that to be, or Suki. What is it?
Waterhouse?
Waterhouse, yeah.
Yeah. I like the indie stuff anyway, so I'm always glad when my kids are starting to lean that way.
Yeah.
I try to nudge without poo pooing anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. When you were growing up, who were some of your favorite bands?
Well, I was really into like hair metal and stuff around that
Okay.
time. Like I went and saw Whitesnake and stuff,
Yes.
Bon Jovi and stuff.
Okay.
And then my taste started to turn when the like Black Crows came out, and I was like, it's funny because I kind of drew that parallel with them sounding like kind of like the Stones or Otis Redding and stuff. So that's when I really started to like the Rolling Stones myself.
Right.
You know, it wasn't my parents' band or something. And then that threw me into Nirvana and Mudhoney and Pavement and Dinosaur Jr. and stuff like that. And I was just gone.
Yeah.
You know, it's just I just want next thing you know, I'm you know, listening to the most obscure weird shit and no one hangs out with me.
I mean,
You know?
well, then was it like so surreal to be on Nirvana's label?
Oh my God. If you
Yeah.
don't think that wasn't a deciding one of the factors and not just them. I mean,
yeah.
I was such a fan of all that. And I was so lucky to get to talk with people like Matador Records or, you know, or these labels that I grew up with really idolizing and collecting their compilations. Could not believe and still can't believe I get to be in the conversation.
That's
So cool. Yeah.
Black Crows apparently went to this, or a couple of them went to the same middle school as myself in Atlanta.
Ooh.
They're a little older than me.
I went and saw them we were recording in LA, and they did like their first kind of back together shows. And they played the Troubadour in LA.
What?
And I swear to God, y'all, I
be-
took a burned copy of the mixes I had from our new record I was working on. Just in case I met them, I was gonna be like, you should have us come support your tour when you guys really come back. I was gonna do it, but then I chickened out. I mean, I'm not gonna wait by the buses or something like that. But I was like, if I happen to run into them, I kept it in my pocket for sure. I still love them.
Yeah.
This was seriously like 3 years ago. I'm not talking about being a kid here too. I mean, it doesn't go away, I think. And I think there's that humility. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. No.
You know?
No.
It's cool. It's cool to see people you're a fan of fan out over other people. So
For sure. Oh my God. I'm fan first. I can't believe I'm here.
don't you also feel like being older, you appreciate your fans almost more? You're like, oh my God, like you remember, or like, you know who I am. Thank you.
Yeah, I've gone from bitter disdain to accepting them being I maybe did take for granted some. I mean, we all do in certain ways, certain things, but for sure things come in to perspective with getting older. I mean, even COVID really, you know, pulled the rug out from anyone's illusions of staying power. And in so many industries. So that was a good wake up to also feeling old too, from just sitting around all day and stuff. I'm like, God, this could go away at any second. But I've always been, I've always had so much respect for anyone. Again, like thank you for your business type stuff. Like thank you for giving me a chance to raise my babies and have a place to live.
Well, no, thank you for making amazing music that we want to talk about, that like you really feel. And you know, I haven't had the pleasure of placing your music, but that doesn't mean that I'm not a fan. It's just that, you know,
I actually have to go.
Yeah.
I was like,
He's
oh,
out.
I know. But
Don't
just
worry,
Over it.
Laura. I make up for
yeah,
it. No, I'm
yeah,
just
Lindsay did. Lindsay has had the pleasure,
Thank you.
but yes, but
But
that also
and I
means
mean it
like,
just
yeah,
from even just
oh,
a listening standpoint. Like, thank you for taking the time to listen. I mean, or
no,
tell someone else that you like it. It all means so much to us.
right. Oh, well, no.
Well,
Yeah.
speaking of, you've given us many, many great songs to be able to consider and place. So can we talk a little bit about No One's Gonna Love You?
Sure.
Because I was kind of like, it's not as sad, but there is such a sweetness, and almost like in that sweetness, it's like pulls on your
Tender.
heartstrings. Yeah. So, and recently, last year, I actually licensed it publishing only because an artist named Simul, who we've also had on the podcast, covered it. Are you aware of this cover?
No, I'm sorry. I don't keep it up
No
sometimes.
worries, but you collected the check, so that's all good.
Jeez. Speaking of thank you for your business, good Lord. Who is
So
this
you
again?
should check it out.
Yeah.
SYML is his name, and he really does. It's a pretty stripped down, sad version of the song.
Oh, I can't wait to hear
Yeah.
it.
SYML. He's from the Pacific Northwest, and
Yes.
yeah,
Nice.
yep,
Oh, well, thanks
yeah,
in advance,
yeah,
by the way.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But what's cool about
Cool.
it too is you know, the song is so strong that like even a different interpretation of it has all the feels. But can you tell us a little bit about writing No One's Gonna Love You? And it's, because the production on it is kind of magical and happy, yet there's this, again, sweet tenderness underneath.
Yeah, you get your Jethro Tull flutes in there, like the Mellotron flute sound. Let's see what we got here. We have the other tuning that I also made up that I'm also stuck with. And it's funny, I keep them tattooed on my arm, those tunings. I'm
Oh
not
my
sure if you see it, but
gosh.
fun for funeral and no for no one right here.
Oh,
Oh
wow.
wow.
So that's what I tuned the guitar to.
Oh my gosh.
And so if I'm ever without my tuning sheet, I can look at my arm while I'm tuning.
Oh my gosh. You're
That's
set for life.
amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah. So we have a hot new bastardized way of playing guitar being introduced here with No One's Gonna Love You. And again, just getting my fingers comfortable somewhere. Using a delay pedal, it creates a little bit of a chime for a rhythm. It's like, it's kind of incessant, but and again, no idea how to sing really that good yet, but it's almost like you want to make a song be able to stick out in a Muzak rendition or something like that, or an elevator music version or something. And that melody, I think it hits it strikes a chord, I think, when it goes up there, and maybe the desperation kind of rings there.
With the yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
I'm like, for someone who can't sing, those are very high notes.
For sure.
Can you hit them still?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because like some people as
Yeah.
they age, they like can't hit the higher, like.
Yeah, I mean, I've never been a great singer, but so far I still have all my faculties with I don't have to like pitch down anything yet.
That's great.
Yeah, we'll see.
But I think like, and having these conversations since we've started this podcast, I think like you saying, same with the funeral and this, that you did because you didn't know how to do things. I think that's that why it resonates so much, maybe, is because it's not so polished, that it's not so tied up with a bow, and that it's real and it's, emotive. And I think maybe.
And you haven't heard it before.
Yeah.
That kind of thing too. Yeah.
And I think that's maybe why we all resonate with it so much, that it's not perfect, because life's not perfect and these feelings are messy and,
Yeah, I've had to, over the years, I've had to learn to trace back to that person, because as our career progressed, also there are more expectations and more there's more attention being paid to it, and that can be confusing as hell. And I have to remind myself that my amateurism, or whatever it is that I have, is a big part of the fabric of this band. And you can't really do it without my stupid fumbling stuff, or it's just, I get to scrape just over the line of cliche drivel with those bad
Not
guitar
at
playing
all,
parts
by the
in there.
way. Like,
No,
yeah.
but you know what I'm saying? I'm being deprecating, but
we're all
it's
our
just
own
part of the
worst
sauce.
critics, right? But
Part of the sauce nonetheless.
right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so what is it about? Because then you have the whole like tumbling down thing. So is this like, oh, we're breaking up, no one's going to love you more than I do?
Unfortunately, it's that basic. Yeah.
Okay.
It was a bad breakup, and honestly, I knew that Band of Horses was going to take me away from having the normal kind of relationship that I would without Band of Horses. I knew I was going to have to travel all the time, and this was kind of a come to Jesus moment in that relationship. Yeah, I wish it was more interesting or deep, but it's really on a core level though for people. It I guess it hit a nerve.
I mean, I think that's a universal. I think a lot of people break up and either say, no one's going to love you more than I do out of spite, or say, no one's going to love you more than I do because they really wish they could make it work, but they can't.
Yeah, and also in the future, I'm still loving you. Like I'm still loving you. No one's gonna like get that.
But yeah, because like when we were listening and just sort of making our notes for this, like I actually don't see it that sad. I think it could even be a relationship in the moment and them just professing like, I don't know, I could see people dancing at a wedding to this too. I'm sure.
They do.
Okay, I was gonna say,
Okay.
I'm like, I haven't placed it, but I mean that's where my mind went. Like I actually think it's very sweet. I mean I can see how you would think it's sad.
Well, that's
yeah.
where I was. And then I
Yeah.
re-listened and I was like, oh, wait, all this. And your tumbling down is actually the most like major and hopeful chords of the song too. So you're very
Whoops.
playful here.
Yeah, sometimes, whether I know it or not. Again,
Right. You discredit yourself, but it's you know what you're doing.
I think yeah, in some ways,
Yeah.
sure, and a lot of it is like hiding from oneself when
Yeah.
when you're digging so deep.
Yeah. No, for
Yeah.
sure.
That's cool.
Well, okay, so $1 million question. What are your favorite sad songs?
Okay, I did think about this a lot, and it's so hard to ever pick. I mean, it's like going into the record store itself,
I
and you
know.
can't remember what you like.
Yeah, I know.
Totally.
But I did get to listen to a lot of them thanks to this podcast that
great.
you're working on here. So I thank you for that. I got to reconnect with a lot of there's a lot of feelings wrapped up in music from your past and things. So
Yeah.
I got slapped over the face today with a song by John Prine called "Summer's End." It might have been his last record. It was definitely one of the later ones, and it's so gorgeous. And it's funny because my partner and I are going through the news that I'll have to be taken off for a long tour coming up right after Christmas. I'll be going to like Australia, and it's long. It's like a month, and that's
Yeah.
way longer than I usually do at this age. But so far, you got to maximize your time. So tough conversations, and I listened to that song, "The Summer's End," and it like smacked me. I'm like, I don't want to cry right before I got to do the podcast. Like, so that one really got me big time today because it's hard for me to stick on all time kind of stuff.
Yeah,
So I'm just
fair
going to say
Agreed.
that hit me today. And if you need more, I have a ton of them right here. I write everything
give
down.
us a
I'm-
runner
Yeah,
up or
we
two.
want to hear some more. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was obsessed with finding this song by this band called The Concretes. I think it's a Swedish aughts kind of
remember them,
band.
yeah.
Yeah. They had their first record. I was just obsessed with, and I went to like look on streaming services, and it wasn't there. And I'm like, am I crazy? Was it a different band? Anyways, it took some research. I finally found the damn record, and this song that gets me is called "New Friend," and it's a cool perspective because you're calling up your lover and someone else answers, kind of vibe,
dare
and it's
they.
very sad. And her voice is just so lovelorn and so aching, but also full of the resolve that you've moved on. So yeah, I really like that one today.
Aching is such a great word for like that.
Yeah.
Like instead of pain, like
Yes.
ache. It's so accurate.
Don't wish it upon anybody.
Right.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, so that one's really good. It's so beautiful. Yeah, and I guess I was looking around too sometimes for cover songs because Sam Beam and we do some cover songs together sometimes. We're talking about maybe recording again, and I'm like,
Ooh.
damn, what are my favorite songs? Because Sam's always like, Sam always talks to me. He's like, man, what songs do you actually like? Like what songs do you really like? Do you think about all the punk stuff you listen to? Do you really think about that when it comes to your favorite stuff when you're feeling something? And he leans on sad songs quite a bit.
All right, we're calling
Good
Sam
to know.
next.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, he's brilliant. Oh, you guys will love Sam.
Yeah, we're big fans.
Yeah. Gonna mess up the grading curve, but whatever. He's very smart, is what I mean. And if I'm going, but I listened to Pretty Ugly before by Elliott Smith.
Okay.
quite a bit this year because there was a benefit with the band from Elliot's days was going to do a benefit and play all these songs, and I was going to sing a couple, and then a damn hurricane kept me here. So, speaking of unrequited love, I'll get there.
Wow, very cool. Well, thank you. I know for music lovers, we never expect anyone to pick only one. So 3 is a beautiful round number. I was going to ask, can't help myself, same old song. Have you ever covered it?
Sam did.
Oh, really? Is that what made you think about how sad it was?
I think it was because hearing the way that he played it, I never had noticed how sad it was. Yeah. So when you're talking about sad songs, sometimes it's, is it the cover version that got you? Did Luther Vandross just bring you to your knees? Did Sinead O'Connor's version get you instead of Prince's? You know what I'm saying? Sometimes it's the delivery.
It's so true. Yeah.
Absolutely.
What's one of your favorite ones that you've covered, that you have done so far?
Oh, wow. That's a good question. Oh, I love Graham Parsons' A Song for You. It's such a beautiful song. And it, and he's I love covering that song. I love Never Tear Us Apart by NXS. Lately, we've been doing that. I love that. I love, let's talk about Harvest Moon by Neil Young. It's not a sad song if you write it out, but there's something about the way Neil's voice goes and the way he strums that guitar and the vibe he creates that it makes it's a joyful sad, melancholy maybe.
Yeah, agreed.
The song Neil Young did for the Philadelphia soundtrack is one of the most heartbreaking songs. Part of it is they show it over childhood footage at the end, but that song kills me.
Thank God for sad songs.
I know, right?
Yeah, do you like a good you say weepy all the time. Do you like a good cry?
I like being myself. I like who I am.
Aw, yay.
And it's just the person that I am, so I accept it.
That's great.
Yeah, and it's not like I don't get a lot of I don't find it really therapeutic, but I find being myself to be therapeutic.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Perfect ending to the episode.
Yeah, I hope I helped. I hope I gave you some things to think about, and y'all certainly got me good with this. It kicked up so many memories and so many feelings. So I thank you so much for having me and for the experience of it.
We'll have to check in with you in a year and see what other sad songs you have coming for us.
Shit, you got me inspired to write some more. I'm gonna get some more of these funerals. Get a mansion.
Yeah. We can't wait to hear the new ones. Yeah.
Probably won't be good, but it will be fun.
Oh, we will be listening. We are fans.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
So.
And good luck with your endeavors here and with the licensing stuff. And please remember, we all appreciate it so much. You do probably more than you even know. You've done so much for my family alone.
Oh,
thank you.
That's very nice. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today on Sad Song Queens, because you always need a good cry.
Huge thanks to Ben Bridwell, Chris Early, and Timothy Mining. Thanks to Ryan Carignan and Matt Whittington at C3 Management and Sub Pop Records.
Special production thanks to Keahu Kahuanui, Miles Bergsma, Wyatt Rouse, and our producer, Emily Cartham.
Our theme song is All My Favorite Songs by Weezer, and our outro music is by Wyatt Rouse. Hi, it's Lindsay from the Sad Song Queens podcast. You may have heard us allude to Rob or thank Rob Seals in the Songwriting School of Los Angeles at the end of our podcast. He has been so kind to let us record in his studio, and the Songwriting School is an awesome place. If you want to learn how to songwrite, record, or even information how to release or sync your song, there's a class for that.
The Songwriting School of Los Angeles is devoted to the artistry and industry of songs. To learn more, go to thesongwritingschool.com, where you can learn more or enroll in classes.